The Super Junior finals are all set, and it could be a big step forward for one of our favorite young wrestlers. But he's up against a guy who is had an interesting journey for the last who has had an interesting journey the last few years. So, Kosei Fujita, we're going to talk about the A block finals, the B block finals, and preview the best of the Super Junior tournament championship match, which is coming up in just a couple of days. We'll get right to it. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. So, with Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. And we are contributors to the Fight Game Media Network. And looking at this, Jeremy, we had 4 shows to watch this past week. And overall, I think that this Best of the Super Juniors has been a very entertaining tournament to watch. Some of the booking decisions we can get into, I'm overall happy with it. I know that there's one finalist everybody seems happy with, one that's a little bit controversial, and we'll get it. We'll get into all that. But overall, the action from day to day, I thought was pretty good. I have enjoyed watching these matches and some of these wrestlers come in, especially. So, what's your impression of it, Jeremy? The last as we come down the stretch into the finals on Sunday.
I was feeling really good about it. I thought it was going in strong. I was a little disappointed with the B block finals. I felt like they were a little flat, but it was just a personal take. Maybe I was a little burnt out on the tournament. It was a lot of matches to watch. It was like 30 matches a week kind of thing. Just a heavy pace. So liked it, didn't love it based off of the finish, but really, really solid tournament from all the way through.
Brad is here with us live. Good to see you, Brad. We don't always get Brad live here. Fernando is here. Glad to see you. Go ahead, Jeremy. What?
There are receipts with Brad.
Yeah, well, he mentions one of them here. He says, "Do I get points since I picked the finalists in the Discord?" and as far as I'm concerned, yes, he should get points. But Jeremy, you're the final arbiter. You're in the Discord, and I'm not. So go ahead and.
I threw out some conversations. They like, "Hey, who's the MVP?" And universally, it was like Hiromu and Desperado were the thoughts about who are the MVPs in this tournament. And then I was like, "Hey, who do you think are going to be the finalists?" And I believe Brad said it would be really cool if both Wato and Yo went to the finals. And I could have that wrong, but I was like, oh, please, I really hope it's not that, because that's not doing it for me. But then Yo goes to the finals, and so I'm happy for Brad for being right. I want to give him his flowers. This is Brad Ryder. This is Big Brad 12, I think, on Twitter. I might have that wrong. But good dude, good follow. He knows his New Japan, and when pressed for a passionate choice, he pressed correctly.
All right. Yeah, and we're going to go over what happened at the A block finals and the B block finals in detail in just a little bit. Overall, I thought it was pretty good stuff, and we picked it. I picked it out last time that Fujita had all the right tiebreakers, and this was a tournament that did not go into the have and have not. Like, nobody went 0-6 and 0-7 to start the tournament and need that consolation win at the end. No one threatened even to go undefeated through the tournament. Everyone got beat fairly early. It was 2 blocks of parity for a lot of it.
Right.
And parity mean Parity, not Parody, which is some of the stuff that Mao gave us. But what we saw were very even blocks. Nobody was eliminated until this past weekend. And even then it was still tight, and those guys got even it up wins. I think the lowest point total was 6, going 3 wins, 6 losses, and no one had more than 12. No one did better than 6 and 3. So they kept things close. They treated the guests with a lot of respect. Nick Wayne was in the lead for a while from Ring of Honor and AEW. He really wrestled well. This was a really good tournament for him. Robbie X was brought in as a late substitute, really, for Bushi, and performed very well. This is another guy that I just think we need to see in New Japan a lot more often. I'm encouraged by the junior heavyweight division going forward, looking at this stuff. And I'll tell you what, I don't know what it'll take to get Dragon Dia away from Dragon Gate, but they should look into it if he's willing to go, because boy, that's a talented young man too, just all around. And what Mao brought was something totally different and entertaining as he did it. So to me, I'm just happy. It's been a fun watch.
I enjoyed it, and I thought everybody was perfect in their roles. Okay. I felt like Fujita and Titan were official picks, but in the Discord, we're getting near the tail end, and you can see how the dust might settle, and there was compassion and there was some intellectualism, and he had the right combination.
Yeah, that's Brad over here for the folks on the podcast saying that he had Fujita and Titan. This is official pre-tournament picks.
I did think it was a really, really strong field, and I thought that the matches, that Mao match that happened today, I didn't like that at all. And
that was the weakest of the wacky DDT matches.
And for whatever reason, like, it just kind of like, it's like that one thing, part of the meal that, like, for whatever reason, if that wasn't there, everything else would be great. And it's such like an irrational like thing, because I'm sure there's a bunch of people that love it. The people in the audience or the people that were there were digging it, right? Like when he got out there and threw him out into the ring, like, oh yeah. And then like the car didn't start. And then it just, everything literally went off of a cliff as time stood still, and Walker and Ninja Mac were trying to fill time. So there was this thing like this tournament was very, very good, and then it just got like dumb at the very end, and it was just the wrong time for it to be dumb. Like Mao should be having this match that should just feel like it's for everything, and it didn't feel that way. It just felt like a weird House of Torture match, like it was all the House of Torture stuff. And so I'm going off in a tangent. Anyways, there was something about today's show that just brought it down for me just a little bit. Okay. And I think that's irrational, but I'm wondering if there are other people that feel the same way.
Oh, let's see. Brad says Ghetto being an all-time junior wrestling. I think he means all-time junior wrestler. He's Ghetto and Jado. It's hard to believe seeing them now. If you didn't see them when they were younger, they were a great junior heavyweight tag team. Refusing to book the junior division has always been weird to me, according to Brad. It's. I don't think that's always true. I think there have been times when it's been booked, that it has been booked pretty well. I don't really have a problem with much of what he's done lately, especially giving Desperado the ball to run with for the most part. I think that it's been strong in that sense. So I'm fine with a lot of the booking for the junior heavyweight, the singles title. The tag title has always been a hot potato. Like, hardly anyone holds on to that for long. So that never bothers me when that belt switches.
I always, not always, but for the last 6 months, have looked at this with the lens of like, he wasn't supposed to be champion. And, like they're running back a lot of these matches and doing things that, they got to do. And Desperado has been unbelievable on this run, just unbelievable about the run. We'll get to that, but he wasn't supposed to be the guy. So I'm just wondering if we're just killing time until we get Doki back. And so all of these matches that we're having, you and I were looking at the cage match before we went live, just looking at all these matches that Desperado's had with all these people and all the top guys that you thought were a possibility to go. He ran it back with each and every one of them, like over the last year.
Well, he's been on top for the last year, so that doesn't bother me. But it's we don't know that Doki was going to win that match in the Dome. I mean, we can assume he might have, but we don't know that. It might have been Desperado coming out of that with the title anyway. But Brad mentions he was interested in Clark Connors going off on Robbie X a bit before the tag match today. That was an interesting thing. We'll talk about that when we get to that match in the show. So should we start with the A block finals here, Jeremy, and go through those?
Unless there's something about the weekend shows that was worth like? Was there any matches that you can think of? Like I wrote Noke, but I need to pull those up.
Yeah, I mean, there were 20 of those matches, so we can't go through all of them or anything like that. But there were some entertaining ones in there. There were a couple of eliminations. That's when Ninja Mac and Taguchi and all that were officially eliminated with their losses, and those are the first eliminations of the whole tournament.
You know what? There is something I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, let's hear it.
In those weekend things, there were two things. One, Ninja Mac on the opener on Saturday with the weapons match. Like,
yes,
this guy threw throwing stars and nunchucks.
Yeah.
And they used the wheel con, and Kurt Connors theoretically got more beat up in this match with those nunchucks than he did getting powerbombed onto that wheel.
Yeah, they did a little of everything in that one, didn't they? We had stars, nunchucks, and tires. I wrote in my notes, is that the New Japan TLC match? Are we doing stars, tires, and chucks at the next pay-per-view? Maybe that's what we got to do.
I was just okay. And then I think the other one when I'm going through here that just stuck out with me was that on Sunday we had that Kurt Connors and Francesco Akira match. With disqualification, they basically lost their minds with each other, turned into like the bloody beat downs when Akira took Connors out with the chair, calling back to the dog pound cage match. Connors gored him through the table at the end of the thing. Like, what's happening here? Like, is this the direction for Akira going forward? Like, Connors is all over the place in this tournament. Like, there are days where you're cheering for him as a tweener, and then there are days where he's just like the monster. And so I don't know. I did not catch the tag this morning. I just watched the 5 matches. So you're gonna have to give me some context as to how like that all played out and what the reaction was. And
there wasn't a big thing, and it was that Connors did seem like he wasn't happy with Robbie, and so it could be them planting the seeds for something. We've seen a couple of hints. There are people that are reading a lot into how Geto behaved from the announced position when it seemed like he did more to harm Taiji Ishimori against House of Torture than he did help him.
Right.
When he allegedly tries to help, there's a little bit of discord going on with the War Dogs where Robbie X and Clark don't seem to be getting along or respecting each other all that much. And Clark and Ishimori have been very much tweeners, like you said. They have done heelish stuff in the matches in which they were supposed to be heels. We saw Ishimori do some heel-ish things against Yo in there. Gabe Kidd, I think, has crossed over irredeemably right now into a babyface. The crowd's going to love him just about no matter what he does. And Maloney is almost there with him. I think that Maloney has kind of picked up some of that, the babyface rub from Gabe, and also just the way he's behaved. So there are some divisions in there. They're not playing it up like there's dissension in the ranks like that in the way that, but they have. We talked about how we smelled a rat with Geto for a while. He might just be trolling us a little bit with that, but he did look like he was hurting more than helping in a couple of situations, really. So,
when Robbie X went to face off against Hiromu, Robbie and Geto were pretty buddy outside of that ring going into the match and afterwards.
Yeah.
So there's always something with Geto.
There is always something with Geto. And the other thing is, if the War Dogs are going babyface because the crowd demands it, or if they're just going to go with it because Gabe has gotten so popular. And keep in mind, this isn't really an accident. They positioned Gabe as the babyface in that match with Kenny Omega in the Dome. No matter what anybody says, they put the lion mark on his tights. They could have kiboshed that. The way that match was worked, he was the babyface. That whole story, he was the good guy.
Right.
This isn't an accident that the fans somehow just turned it. They were pushing us that direction. Geto doesn't particularly like being a babyface. Yeah, he always puts himself on the heel side of it. When Okada was kind of the snot-nosed playboy rich guy, that was when he was at his peak as Okada's manager. When Okada drifted over toward babyface, as everybody began respecting him, that's when he switched himself over to Jay White. And then he moved over to the War Dogs from there, and with Finlay and everything else. it would make sense that he would drift away from the War Dogs if the War Dogs are drifting to the babyface side. That's just where Geto feels the most comfortable. And keep in mind, it's not only Geto that's making the decisions back there. We talk about Geto as he's not the lone booker. There, just about all reports have Dick Togo being in on things, Jado being in on things, certainly Tanahashi and Bushiroad as a whole. Like, we know that Bushiroad will push for certain people and certain things in certain situations. So Geto has a lot of masters to deal with in this situation as well. So, but yeah, it does feel like I still think Geto will probably turn on them eventually, just because he has to. He just has to. I don't see him going babyface. And again, there's just not a lot of use for a babyface manager. Like, the only thing he can do is kind of be ineffective in trying to stop House of Torture. By the way, we need to talk to President Tanahashi, because for a guy who, one of his main points as being president of the company was preventing or slowing the interference of House of Torture, he's been a dismal failure in that regard, because they have dropped all of that. And now House of Torture is interfering just as much as they used to. And in some cases, even more. So that's a point of failure for Tanahashi, and that battle he had against Evil didn't seem to do any good whatsoever.
Yeah, he seems to be spending a little bit more time in AEW.
Yeah, he turned
showing up in Double or Nothing, getting involved with Adam Cole and the Paragons of Virtue over there. Then making sure that the business is getting handled over in Bushi Road.
Yeah.
Letting Walker Stewart get poached by Stardom.
Well,
I'm kidding.
Walker works for Bushi Road.
He's working very, very hard, and he can handle a lot of tasks. I'm just being silly.
No, of course, Walker is what director of PR and communications for Stardom now. Is that it?
Sir.
No one's really sure what that job means.
If it means getting an app on most streaming platforms, good job by him.
I don't think he's in charge of that, is he?
He can make it happen. He can lobby for it as a director of global communications.
Yeah, I think his job is pretty much do what they tell him to do.
I get it.
Put these things out in English on certain social media platforms
sometimes
and all that. I'm not sure he's
in. Sometimes there's communication out.
Because remember, when you work in PR, you have to do what you're told want you to do, not what you want. Yeah, you're given the message that you have to disseminate.
Absolutely.
You don't get to choose.
But I digress.
Ask most PR people if they get to choose the message they disseminate. They will tell you that is not how that job works. And Brad says, I think Walker's taking over for what Sonny did before he left with Rossi. Maybe a little bit. The issue is he doesn't speak Japanese, or he's learning. But believe me, as someone who is also trying to learn Japanese, that takes a long freaking time. It's really hard. And I think the thing that most people would like the most is subtitles on the promos, and whether it's the backstage stuff or Stardom does a lot of in-ring stuff with the same thing like New Japan does, where the main eventer talks afterwards. We don't get to hear we don't get to read the English version of that anymore, which I think is something Sonny did. Unless Walker is given a budget to get a translator in, maybe he will. I doubt it. Then just because they're not exactly throwing around money at Bushi Road in any direction, but unless he does that, I don't think we're going to be seeing any translations. But he might be able to do more with their social media than is currently going on. Maybe a little bit more with YouTube than what's currently going on. His passion for Stardom is there.
Absolutely.
Because when you listen to him do Stardom, he's into it. And he is I thought for a while he was better at Stardom than he was at New Japan. I know I've been critical of him with New Japan. I do think he's improving. He is improving a little bit with the New Japan stuff. His stuff on Stardom's flat out strong. So I think this is a job he's going to be really into and enjoy. It's just a question of what they allow him to do with that job, that role. He already plugged the Natsupoi Sayori Anu anniversary show pay-per-view, which is more than what we'd heard before. But my thing about it is the synergy. These two are companies on
brother and sister companies, basically.
And they don't seem to promote each other's stuff. Like what would be the harm? I asked this to Scott Edwards. What would be the harm for New Japan to air a 30-second, 1 minute, minute and a half hype video for the next Stardom pay-per-view in the week leading up to that pay-per-view. Like, why not after match 5 or something, this thing comes up and it says, Saya Kamatani versus whoever, on Sunday on pay-per-view. That's all money that goes to Bushiroad. Yes, it's not NJPW World, but Stardom World, that money goes into Bushiroad, same as the New Japan money does. And it's for Stardom, like why, they mentioned the Dominion in the week leading up to. I'm not asking for the two companies to merge, but it wouldn't help to acknowledge that the other exists a little more often than they do. And that's something Walker can bring and has. He plugged that pay-per-view. It's not going to be a world changer, but it is something they could do that they're not doing that costs nothing, really.
Synergy
just to mention
is not a filthy word.
Yeah. And Brad mentions this. This is absolutely true. Scott Edwards does better PR for Stardom than anyone there now before Walker took over. Yeah. Scott Edwards does more to inform people about what is going on in Joshi, how to watch it, where to watch. His Joshi Informer email list is brilliant. I mean, I refer to it all the time. There's a lot to keep track of, and he does a wonderful job doing so. Something like that sure wouldn't hurt. A little email, an email service that you can subscribe to in English that would let you know the wheres and the whens. I mean, Scott does that now. Maybe that's something that Walker could bring to another audience and things. But I don't think it's going to distract from his duties with New Japan. I think I agree with you, Jeremy. I think you can do both. Mm-hmm. And Walker did seem like he was into what he was seeing at Super Juniors as well. So again, I listen to a lot of the Japanese commentary, not as a knock on Walker, but because I am trying to learn Japanese. And so the more I hear it, I think the better off I am in that pursuit. So what do you think of the commentary since we're on Walker's thing? Did he have a strong tournament as well? He's with different partners every night. That's a challenge, folks, being with different partners every night too.
I relied on him to be able to call a lot of the finishes and making sure that I was tracking it right for all the shows that you weren't here for, because you're the note taker in a lot of the ways, and I do the stuff. So with you not being here, obviously I had to switch it up for myself and be very diligent about these things. So I was paying attention a lot more to his calling of the matches, and I felt like there was a lot of good conversation in the downtime in the matches. A lot of these matches were 7 or 8 minutes. Then they were 12 or 14 minutes. But even then, there was 2 or 3 minutes each where you're just kind of filling time, just kind of having a conversation, that kind of thing. Hey, whatever. So I thought he was fine.
Okay.
I didn't think that it was his best campaign, but I also he also came in a few days after, Chris Charlton was covering the first few days. Yeah. And so he'd coming in and he's just picking up the baton and and running with it. And for that, hey, good on you, buddy. Sometimes when you're just pulled in the middle of the thing and you have to vibe right into the tournament rather than from the start to the end, that can be a little tough.
I tell you who's a really hard-working guy is Murata over on the Japanese commentary. He's the guy that's most often with Milano Collection AT. There are a couple of guys. But he also does the Stardom shows when they have Japanese commentary. A lot of the house shows on Stardom, they just have the cameras there. You don't have commentary. But he went and did he does the Nighters and Korakuen. And then there was a time when he was doing Super Juniors, and then he must have just taken a train or a plane back to Tokyo, done the night or a Korakuen, and then immediately headed to Osaka for the next day to be back with Super Junior. This guy's going all over the place and working for more than one company at a time. I'll see him turn up on, I'm trying to think of who else he's worked for, but I've seen Murata on multiple promotions. He works with a lot of guys. So that was, he does a lot of wrestling for a lot of different companies and is the lead announcer for, 3 different promotions.
Brad's trying to get me distracted by tagging me in Discord posts that are 3 months old. And, and I'm going back and forth. I'm just having a laugh with all this right now. It was back when Mina Shirakawa got hurt back in February before she had her goodbye stuff, and then she came around here, and then and it was just the Discord is just being funny today for whatever reason. So
Brad mentioned he was surprised there aren't more guests on commentary. I'm sure they didn't want to bring anyone not on the show, but that was surprising. Yeah, they kind of just went with somebody who had an early match, and then they came out and joined him later, and he was kind of flying solo for the first couple. And Brad thought that Ninja Mac was pretty good on today.
He reminded me a lot of ELP, like that kind of like casual. I don't want to say stoner, but like very relaxed relaxed on the mic. Like, I'm just chilling, talking about these matches. Damn, that guy's good. Like talking up Nick Wayne a lot on this match. Like talking about how just he's so young and everything that he's done, and wrestling him over GCW because they have history together. And just watching him, wrestle these 40 or 50-year-old people and just the poise and everything he learned. It's just like the insight that Ninja Mac had for some of these guys was actually pretty interesting.
Okay. So should we look at the block finals now?
Yeah, we've talked enough about everything else.
So it was Tuesday back in Shizuoka. Shizuoka is a little like a smaller, certainly not a big city the way Tokyo, Osaka, or Hiroshima are right there, but it's along the way between Tokyo and Osaka. If you take the bullet train between the two, you go through Shizuoka. And Shizuoka, they drew about 668 fans, about the same as last year. For the, I've noticed that there are Super Juniors kind of follows the circuit every year. It's about the same towns each time. Very, very, very similar, and with the arenas, so you can do kind of year after year comparison pretty well. We had a bunch of preview tags, and then the A matches came. Ninja Mac defeated Dragon Dia in the first one. Now both men were mathematically eliminated by the time we got to this match, but it was an entertaining one here. There was a spin kick by Ninja Mac off of a Dragon Dia dive, where he basically shot Dragon Dia out of the air with that kick. Dragon Dia, the timing on that was crucial, and he got it. Both men ended their tournament on 8 points. I already said what I said about Dia, where I wish we could see him more in New Japan. I like Ninja Mac an awful lot too, and the storyline was that Ninja Mac sacrificed results to go viral, which made me smile a little bit. Of course, he did indeed go viral with all the backflips coming both, across the ring, all the way to the floor, and then all the way up the aisle. That got a lot of views. My thought on this, Jeremy, is if you're a freelancer, going viral in this situation is a hell of a lot more valuable to you than getting 8 points in this tournament, being booked in this tournament. If you're a freelancer and you can go viral, you might get more bookings off of that than doing well in the tournament. So all power to him. And if New Japan isn't going to bring him in more often, which I'd like, then I hope that brings him a lot more bookings and money in there, because I think Ninja Mac's a lot of fun to watch.
How surprised would you be if he ended up being on like Ring of Honor a lot, and then like doing the Ninja Special on some of those undercards, on some of those AEW collisions, and all that stuff for a spell? Like, good for him. Honestly, like, this guy has a Cirque du Soleil background, gymnast, acrobat. We've seen people like this in wrestling before, like Reggie from WWE. There are people that can do it, but can't quite assimilate into the wrestling like lifestyle. I think Ninja Mac has figured it out with the gimmick. He's clearly not Japanese, like
yes.
there's an ethnicity there that's, ambiguous, but it doesn't matter. Like, he has the ability to parlay what a ninja would do. Like the throwing stars, like that was amazing to me, but also incredibly reckless. Like, I'm watching this, and he's so deliberate about where he was throwing it. He knew where the guy was going, and he threw it in the opposite direction, but it looked like he was chasing him. And then when he did the jumping, like turn around the corner and threw the ninja star at Walker's table, I was just like, what the shit? So, like, this guy deserves everything he can get out of this tournament.
Yep.
Like, he was never going to win it. You know what I mean? Like, he was a guy in this tournament. And Dragon Dia was essentially just a guy in this tournament. But both of them came away just like their stock is up. Dragon Dia, he wasn't supposed to be in it last year. And, like,
True.
Now you planned for it this year, and you really got to see like that reptilian Rana. You got to see all of these like fantastic high-flying moves that just make him feel like he's lighter than air. So I just thought both of these guys really came out of it much better than they did when they came in.
I would like to see Mac also with the CMLL. I think he would do well there in a place where sometimes it's about the spectacular more than the fun. I think he would
doing some Marina Mexico work,
doing that up that long ramp in Marina Mexico. That would get over, tell me. But a lot of things to happen there. Colin is here with us. He says, "Sorry you're late. Watching TV. No problem, man. Glad you're with us." But yeah, so that was the one match, and then we moved on from there after Mac and Daya. We went to. Yes, it was Francesco Akira and Kushida. Now, Akira, we kind of suppose this might be his year. Didn't turn out to be that way, but he did get a strong run here as far as results go. He ended the tournament with 10 points. He's using a shoulder stretch a lot, that grand tarantula, the ground tarantula, they're calling it, and not always using the double knees. So he has built a submission finisher to go with a strike. I think it's always a good idea to have one of each and get one of each over. It helps in various situations. So again, Akira expanding his game a little bit. He defeated Kushida with that submission hold. And like I said, 10 points for him. Kushida stayed at 4-5 with 8 points. Really well wrestled tournament for Akira. He had some of the better matches in it. They decided to go with somebody else from this block that everyone was happy with. We're about to get to. But I thought that he was a contender from this block, and he stayed in it until just about the end of it. I think he was. I do think this helped him. He didn't get the finals push. He's not going to win the thing, but Francesco Akira just looks like a single star that's in that junior heavyweight division that's developing.
Yeah, I agree with you on all of that. I want to get to Kushida real quick before I get to Akira, and that is, it's really cool to see that dude back in New Japan and feeling like his presence matters.
Yeah.
Like not just a guy who worked like TNA and then whatever else, and then coming in and like scoring like 3 wins in a match. I know 4 isn't like that much better, but it just felt like he was in the mix.
Yeah, and part of it was the way the block was booked, that nobody was eliminated until fairly late in it, so everyone felt like they were in, but he did feel relevant.
He felt rehabilitated.
And there were a couple of Super Junior tournaments when he felt like we're seeing another Tiger Mask here, where this guy's in to go 2-7 and put people over, and it doesn't feel that way anymore.
A couple of years ago, he was the guy doing the mouth stuff where they would go out into the parking lot with Hiromu and have a match. They were wrestling like these weird ass matches out in the thing. So it's just nice to have him back. And then with Akira, the detail that I liked, and this is like a story thing or whatever, is that him not winning the block was a decision that he made consciously.
Oh, because he got disqualified.
Because he got disqualified, had he won that match, he would have won the block. But he didn't. And for him to like choose the revenge or choose like the retribution or to make that decision to cost himself that title, cost himself the match against Connors, and cost himself the tournament, agree or disagree with the decision, at least you have a direction where the character is defining his own decision rather than the decision defining it.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. Let's go back to that a little bit, because that was an important result, as you mentioned, because it took him really out of contention. But with Akira here, he got himself disqualified against Connors. There were tires involved and chairs involved, and it kind of turned into a bit of a hardcore match.
They were running back the dog pound cage match.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of emotional trauma, PTSD from Akira and that, and he lost his head. Now, if they want to use that going forward, that if pushed, he'll go a little nuts, you can make that work.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody in United Empire should have that little crazy edge on them. Like, that's something just like that's kind of a prerequisite for the faction going forward. If you got to be a little nuts to be in it.
Yeah, true.
And based on who's left, it's not out of the question. They're all kind of little nuts.
Yeah, there isn't a normal one in that batch, really. If you look at it,
really is not.
No,
really is it.
It's a group of
They're going a bit of meta. They're going a bit of real. They're going a bit of
So after that, Yoshinobu Kanemaru and Master Wato. Now here's the banana peel moment for Master Wato. It just seemed like a very, and this is a trope in New Japan, and this is what House of Torture sort of excels with, both in the G1 tournament and here, is that they're the banana peel. You can always have them cheat and beat anybody. And it doesn't really hurt the guy that gets cheated as much as maybe taking a straight loss would. So Kanemaru and Master Wato, Show interfered a lot, lots of House of Torture stuff. Wato sold a lot. More interference. It ended up with Kanemaru getting him in the figure four and then whacking him in the leg with the whiskey bottle while he's in the figure four. And of course, he had to go ahead and submit there. And Kanemaru got in after that in more shots, and so did Show. And that forced Yo to come out and make the save. So a couple of things going on here. It took Wato out, and then for the most part, it really hurt his chance. It did take him out, didn't it? Because, well, then he didn't have the tiebreaker with Fujita and all that. So that kept him from advancing. That meant it all came down to the final match there. And then it also sets up a junior heavyweight title match at some point in the future, because you had Kanemaru and Show beating down Wato, saved by his championship tag team partner. While that wasn't expressly put there, the writing's on the wall that that's going to be the next junior heavyweight tag team title match for Yo and Wato.
And sneaky, they have not been putting the junior heavyweight tag titles on those big cards. So that may lead them free and clear to run both matches on the way to Dominion.
Yeah, and House of Torture has a lot going on at the moment, or at least is set up to have a lot going on. But there are several shows. They do have to fill out a card. I want to mention this because as we went on the air live here, they had not announced the rest of the card for June 1st. We know the finals, but they had not announced the rest of the card. Now,
I thought you were about to tell me they had announced it, and I was like,
had not. So by the time, if you're not watching this live or listening to this live, by the time you do hear this, it may have come out. That usually happens the next morning. And and it is the next morning in Tokyo, pretty early in it. But we expect some kind of announcement on that today, but not yet as we went live on the air. So if you're listening to this in a few hours, it may have already hit the waves, but we can't talk about it. We don't know yet. But there's that. There's also a Dominion card to fill out. So there's a lot of a lot of choices for this match to come up.
We have a match card and a show that we cannot preview for you, that we will review for you in a week.
Right.
In addition to no shows to preview before Dominion the week after. and then we have one series of shows going before the G1, and that's the New Japan Soul that goes until like July 4th. Yeah. And that's the big last show before the G1. And anyone who's the title holders for that, man, they're holding on to all that stuff until September.
No road to Dominion. You're just going right into it.
What do you need to do? Gabe Kidd covering AEW. What are you going to run?
Yeah. And he might be.
No, just get those guys healthy. Let Goto rest up. This summer is going to be brutal. So if they can all just kind of rest up their bodies, because you're going to have an 8-week period where these guys are probably got the most dates that they're going to have for the entire year over like July and August, right?
Yeah.
You got the big show on July 4th. Then you got all the G1 stuff. Then you're going and doing, some of those guys are going to England to do Forbidden Door. God forbid they're doing some Rev Pro stuff off on the side, and then they're going to be coming back and doing whatever shows that they have, building up September on the run to the Wrestle Kingdom. If these guys have no matches to wrestle between May and June 15th, good for them.
Yeah, Brad mentions, how is it almost G1 season already? It is. Yeah, I mean, when you hit Dominion, you kind of start thinking about G1 right after Dominion. Whoever's champ coming out of Dominion is almost always champion going into G1. There's very rarely anything.
May showed up and it disappeared. I don't know what happened to this month.
Well, I know I was in Japan for 2 weeks of it, and it still is. So that was on fast forward the whole time. It does seem to have disappeared.
the entirety of this month was talking about the best of the Super Juniors, and I feel like, yeah, it was long, and I watch it, but I can't believe that we went through like 10 nights over 20 days or whatever it was.
Okay, so at this point, Francesco Akira has gotten himself to 10 points. Master Wato lost to Kanemaru, had to submit after all that interference. He was stuck on 10 points. So now Akira and Wato were on 10. Clark Connors was on 10 going into this match with Kosei Fujita. So we're starting to see a bit of a schmaz up there at the top of the rankings. Fujita and Connors had a really good high-impact match. Here was my note, Jeremy. So they're wrestling like they're okay being sore for a couple of days.
Yeah.
No, you're right. So we're just going to do this. And if we're hurting for our preview tag, and okay, we'll just deal with it. But Fujita ended up winning with the Nemo special, his submission. So just about everybody has a submission hold now, too, in addition to a striking or flying finisher or something like that. And it was a really good match. I recommend everybody go back and look at it. These guys hit hard and worked hard. Fujita wins with that submission. And at that point, he had 10 points and great tiebreakers. This is the point that I was making when I was looking at that mass of people. So you look at the people he has tiebreakers over, and he was in really good shape. But Hiromu Takahashi controlled his own destiny. He had to beat Robbie X in the last match of Block A, and that would allow him to move on. So, Hiromu, Robbie X. Another really, really good match. X really belongs here in New Japan. I really feel strongly about that. This guy should be here. Hiromu seemed really motivated. We've talked on the show how Hiromu seems situationally motivated now and isn't just pulling out banger after banger. He seems to have to be in the right situation. This was one of them. This is a really good version of Hiromu. He was also really good in his hometown of Hachioji. He was going to make sure that they put on a good show for his home neighborhood. But in the end, after a series of big moves back and forth between the two, Robbie X hit his express dive, and which is hard to describe. You just have to see it. There's a lot going on in this. There are corkscrews and flips and everything else in there. It's an impressive looking move, and defeated Hiromu Takahashi in 15 minutes 54 seconds. One of the longer matches of the tournament. There weren't a lot of long matches in this one. A lot of times, you're doing 10 singles matches in a night. You don't have time to have a long one, but this was one of the longer ones. It was very, very good. And so that left a whole slew of guys stuck at 10 points. Hiromu was stuck at 10.
Tiebreaker time.
Fujita had the tiebreakers, and it was Kosei Fujita that moved on. Fujita came out after the match, and Hiromu even seemed to kind of pat him on the back on the way by, said a couple of things in his ear, and moved on. Robbie X said he wants Fujita to win the tournament, then win the title, and then he can challenge him, because Robbie actually beat Fujita, but Robbie was stuck on 8 points.
That he
not
would
10.
have that self-interest.
Yeah, so all that made sense. And then Fujita said a few words about how it was his fate to win the tournament. So in the end, Kosei Fujita, who just had a 40-minute documentary on drop on the YouTube channel, which is pretty good and subtitled. So if you only read English, you can understand what he's saying. And he says "cool" a lot. He says the word "cool" a lot. Kakoi. A lot of things
Cool,
are kakoi.
cool.
Yeah, cool, kakoi. And he also goes to a very interesting coffee shop that I wish I knew about when I was in Japan out there. You should see it. But it's a decent little thing. He rides motorcycles, talks about his childhood a little bit, which was not happy.
So he's punk rock.
Yes. I mean, that's really the story. He's riding motorcycles. He's meeting rock bands that he likes. He's,
he's living the gimmick.
Living the gimmick. And, there are just a lot of things pointing toward a push for Kosei Fujita. But they also did one of these documentaries on Francesco Akira recently, and he didn't move on to the tournament. But either way, there you go. Kosei Fujita wins Block A, and I was happy for it. We've been saying all along, 2025 is about creating new stars so that 2026 they can really get going with this new generation of things. And Kosei Fujita is 22 years old. That's incredible, really. He's only 22, and he's wrestling like that already. I think he is a generational talent, and I think he has the potential to be a Satoru Sayama, Tiger Mask, Jushin Liger, Hiromu type of standard bearer for a generation of juniors. If he stays healthy and stays with New Japan, this guy's got it all to me.
I don't disagree with the word that you said. I think they did some excellent parody booking to wrap this through. You know, like you can look at the schedule going into Saturday and Sunday and be like, Hiromu's got to win 3 in a row to guarantee him getting in. And, you know, like you kind of like he's going to win those 2 on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And then going into it, it really did come down to like, you feel like, are they going with Fujita or are they going to go with Hiromu Takahashi? And, you know, having him in the main event, you know, like Robbie Eagles was the spoiler, and he was a fantastic spoiler throughout the entire tournament. But the way that they set it up, you know, they've done that a couple times where the guy that you expect to win loses, and then the guy from the last match just saunters on out and like, what up, guys? Like, hey. And it was a good moment. You and I are going to have probably a very healthy debate about who's going to win that final, based off of just some interesting like statistics. I actually found more matches, and we'll get to that in the cage match thing that we'll parse. But all in all, I think the A block final night was more satisfying to me than the B block final night. But I'm not sure that the A block as a whole was better than the B block as a whole. Chew on that.
It's hard to pick. There's a lot of good stuff on each side. So the B block finals were in Niigata. We don't have attendance figure for that show. Last year they drew a little bit over 900. I think like 918 was what was announced last year. But we didn't get a number for today, at least not yet. But it looked like there were a decent number of people in there, but it was impossible to really eyeball that crowd in a good way and figure it out. But again, we got preview tags. There was, like you mentioned, a little stuff with Clark and Robbie X. We got, like I said, the first appearance of Ren Narita in a while. We'll talk about that because he gets involved in a block match. But we also saw, we saw Ryohei Oiwa for the first time in the tour as well in the preview tags. So that's good to see him back. A B block match led off with Kevin Knight and Ryusuke Taguchi. These are 2 guys that were mathematically eliminated. And my notes for this one is silliness at first, a few moves, and then a frog splash. And Kevin Knight won. Those are my notes for that one. And that's about all there is to say about it. Nothing wrong with it, but not particularly consequential. Kevin Knight looked good. But one of the issues, Jeremy, with having that dual contract means you have both 1 foot in and 1 foot out of each promotion. It makes it difficult for either promotion to feel comfortable pushing you fully because, you know, and you're seeing that because God knows Kevin Knight ain't getting many wins on AEW TV. But, you know, that's the whole other thing. But in New Japan, they seem like, well, he's going to be in AEW half the time. We can't really push him here either. So straddling that line isn't always great for you.
I don't mean to be blasé here, but it just feels like kind of his booking in this tournament was like, yeah, just make sure he doesn't lose too much at the end. So when he comes back, people don't remember him losing all this stuff. There were hundreds and thousands.
Hundreds and thousands, both of them, both hundreds and thousands.
There were people in the thousands, and then once the thousands were counted, there were people in the hundreds after that.
So you think there were 1,100 people in there? They increased attendance that much?
I mean, it's a finals. People really like Desperado.
Yeah.
Well, I guess people might be into Yo.
If there are 1,000, there are 1,000.
This is what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know. The AEW guys, like at the very end, I thought Nick Wayne had a better like showing than Kevin Knight. I think Kevin Knight just wanted to check a box, whereas Nick Wayne was like, this was a dream come true kind of like approach to it all. Like you can kind of see it in the ring.
Yeah, Nick wrestled like he had something to prove, and Kevin wrestled wrestled well, and he's incredibly athletic, but he wrestled like he knows he's already
like
part
the
of
magic wasn't magical for him. You know,
he's already part of the cast. He knows he's part of the cast, whereas Nick Wayne is like, I want to show you that I should be here all the time. All right. Or be invited back. He was wrestling like he had something to prove.
And then Taguchi, I like the range that he had in this tournament. You know, like he had a couple of those matches that were the funky butt stuff, whatever. But like there were 2 or 3 matches where he had to be the guy, and he was the guy in those matches. He was given an assignment and he delivered on the assignment.
I miss the days sometimes when Taguchi would just shift in a match. And we've talked about it before on here, but I'll go ahead and do it again. It's been a while. where Taguchi would start off a match doing a little bit of comedy, and then something would happen in the match and it would change a gear. And the New Japan fans, and we're going back a ways for this, 2015, 2016, 2017, the fans would go along with it. It's almost like the people of Korakuen especially would be laughing and kind of sitting back and going through things, and then something would switch in the match, and the crowd would be like, oh, now it's a serious match. And he could change it up, and then he was an excellent junior heavyweight wrestler in that time. Excellent. And, you don't always get to see it right now. I think you did see a little bit of it in this tournament. It's not going to go back to those days just because of the atmosphere, the different way he's pushed than he was back then. I mean, he and Prince Devitt were a great tag team. But there was a thing where we're like, oh, okay, now we're going to do a serious Taguchi match. And he could wrestle it like it was a serious match, and you would never know he had done comedy for the first 2 or 3 minutes of the match. And I kind of miss that gear shift a little bit. We don't quite get that anymore. But sometimes you see Taguchi decide, yeah, I can still work. Watch this, kids. I can still work. And it was fun to see him pull that out again.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. He still all the gears work in the engine.
yeah, he still got it. Yeah. All right, so that was that match. And again, that one was not consequential to the finals. But after that, we had Teton and Nick Wayne. Teton defeated Nick Wayne here in 8 minutes and 14 seconds. This is very good, especially toward the end. But they're building a rivalry here. These two have run into each other at a CMLL AEW Ring of Honor show before as well. So I'm convinced that Teton can work any style in the world and be really, really good at it. Wayne is only 19 years old, and he's on the way to being that. He's not quite there yet, but my goodness. So
the adaptability is there.
The potential is just phenomenal. I mean, he's already good, let alone what his potential is. Titan won with the Llave Immortal, the Immortal Key. And, he ended up both of them ended their tournaments on 8 points, 4 and 5. We mentioned last week that Nick Wayne was about to have a rough week, and he did. He was in the lead in the block, and we knew that wasn't going to last. But what he did was perform well just about every single night. I have no complaints about him. And if he came back next year, I would be very delighted to see him.
I would not be shocked if we see Teton and Nick Wayne run it back at Arena Mexico. Hey, there it is!
Or Forbidden Door, a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, or all of them, quite frankly.
Brad and I were thinking, we got those June 17th. There's a Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday in Arena Mexico. 2 of them are for CMLL and the Wednesday Dynamite. Teton and Nick Wayne is just precisely the kind of shithouse match that they'll be put on that.
Yeah, and remember, Teton is a champion in CMLL as well. So I mean, there are a lot of layers. There are a lot of places these guys could chase each other around the world, so to speak, if they want to really make it a rivalry. And you remember, Jeremy, they've done this effectively before. Dragon Lee and Hiromu Takahashi are kind of legendary. Part of it was because Hiromu got his neck broken in that match with the two of them, but their matchups were always incredible, and they weren't in the same company, but they would keep finding ways to get to each other again. And
why'd you have to remind me about that match? Oh,
well, I'm just saying, but those were great matches, and they had other great matches before that match.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen, obviously, but Teton and Nick Wayne can be one of these things where like the two companies can just find ways to get them in the same spot, and no one's going to complain. So they have good chemistry.
An immortal rivalry.
There you go. All right. So that was Nick and Teton. After that, we went to Mao and Show. So now we're getting into the meat of this because these are the people that are in contention. And Mao went into this thing with 10 points, Show with 8. It went about 12 minutes, and it was a DDT match. So let's talk about a little bit of that. Mao had his buddies with him from the Strange Love connection. And he rode out on the DDT bike, the decorated DDT bike to start, which got a huge pop. He ran over Show in the aisle. Show's was the recipient of the sneak attack this time instead of the other way around.
Escalating things that Show gets run over with this entire sequence.
Yeah, not the weirdest thing he got. It was the weirdest thing he got run over with, but not the most dangerous.
Not the only thing.
Not the only. This was Yujiro's hometown. He's from Niigata, and so there was this odd thing where House of Torture was more popular than it usually is because people were happy to see their hometown guy of Yujiro. And it was, again, the first Ren Narita sighting since the Dog Pound match, Bloodbath, for him. He turned up. They fought all the way to the outside. And that's when the match kind of went off a little bit because Yujiro, Ren, and Sho were out there. Mao got in a little bit of offense and then ran to a Toyota van that was parked nearby. Apparently, Mao has never driven one of these before or didn't know how to because this took forever for him to start this thing.
I 100% bet that it wasn't in park and he couldn't get the car started because it was like in neutral.
But it just was. It just felt like an eternity that these guys
stopped,
had to,
everybody. Time stopped still.
And Ren, Sho, and Yujiro kind of had to stand there, not having taken a whole lot of punishment, and pretend like they were still foggy. Anyway, finally got this thing moving. It went about 4 miles an hour. It bumped Sho, who had to then sell it like he just took this huge, devastating thing.
Like he was run over by a bus.
It was not the Eddie Gilbert, Jerry Lawler version of it, but you won't believe that. If you ever go back and try to find that on YouTube, Eddie Gilbert, Jerry Lawler hit by a car, you won't believe that happened on live television.
This is insurance scam level of taking a bump.
Yes, this was perfectly fine. Anyway, so now Sho has to act like he's dead. He puts him on a cart, wheels him back in. When they got back in, I noticed one thing, Jeremy. Sho Makato was nearby. Because he's doing his usual job of kind of protecting the crowd. Sho Makato had a look on his face like, this is the business I'm trying to get into? You know,
I had a look on my face this entire match where I was just like, I was advocating for Mao to maybe move on just for for thing. And then after watching this, I was actually embarrassed for thinking that. You know, like, not that anything's wrong with the match. It's just, if you're campaigning to be the best guy in this tournament, this is not the match you have on your final night.
But I don't think that's what Mao is here to do. First of all, I don't think Mao is leaving DDT. They love him. He loves doing that. He's good at that version of wrestling, but DDT does that version of where you're cross between wrestling and a parody of a wrestling company. And he straddles that line almost better than anybody. And I think that I don't think he's going anywhere. So I think his job is to kind of bring some of that DDT-ish stuff to New Japan, and that's what he did. Anyway, this match took a village. There were 6 people involved. They were hitting each other with everything. Mao ended up countering the whiskey. He hit Sho with that big iron fist prop thing that was off the bike. It was insane. Then he hit a 450 splash to win. I guess if they want to go full DDT with this and have a match somewhere along the line with Mao and the Strange Love Connection versus House of Torture, I'm in. What the hell? It's not going to be a permanent part of New Japan. It'll be weird as hell. And one thing on the card. But that did mean that Mao was alive going into the final matches in this tournament. He had 12 points, 6-3. He went and blocked play. So it shows you that they at least take him seriously. And his talent is there. He can wrestle.
I'm going to push back a little bit. And I'm going to be like, old man, get off my lawn kind of thing.
That's my job. Wait a minute. You're the open-minded one of the two of us.
I understand. I'm here watching this tournament. And I've committed to watching every single match and watching this all play out. And in kayfabe, theoretically, all of these people are vying for this spot to, achieve glory, get an award, do something, be the best of these 20 people that have been picked around the globe to compete for this honor. And yes, I get that if Mao wants to remain authentic, he's going to wrestle his DDT style to get there in the final match. You can make that argument. But it is hard for me to watch a tournament in which everyone is fighting for this honor. They're like the Robbie Eagles Teton match, for example. It felt like a battle to get a win, to make it all the way. So you can have this match. You can set up Sho and Mao at any point during the thing. Don't do it on the last night of the tournament and undercut what made the whole feel of the tournament just feel like a little bit of a joke on the last night, rather than, we're at the back, everybody's fighting tooth and nail to win this tournament. And it's like the comparison that I would make for Mao in the junior heavyweight when I see him is like when I watched Takeshita in AEW Dark, and I didn't know this guy because I wasn't watching DDT, but it was one of those, this guy is a revelation. They need to do more with this guy. And that was like 3 or 4 years ago. Takeshita was much younger. His name wasn't known out there. Like, he wasn't even sniffing New Japan. You know, he was DDT and he was AEW, and AEW was the pipeline for New Japan. I'm looking at Mao and I see like a lot of similarities to Takeshita. I see like this guy is so good that he can make comedy look easy. Like, he is talented in all of these different ways. You know that you wanted to do this match. You know that you wanted to show the little bit of DDT, you know, to the New Japan audience. It was all part of the plan. This just didn't feel like the night to do it. And that's the only issue I have about all of it.
Colin mentions, you both don't watch DDT then. I don't. And I have Wrestle Universe, and there's a ton of great stuff on Wrestle Universe. And Colin, I tried. There was some big, like their biggest show of the year. I gave it my best shot. It's not for me.
Colin,
I can't do a whole show of it. I just can't. I've tried, and I respect it. I understand what they're doing is just something different. It's just a combination of things that just I can't do 3 hours of it at a time.
Colin, I like to remain authentic, and I like to be honest with you. I do not have the time in my work-life balance to do anything other than make sure I can watch all the New Japan and then some AEW and WWE. That's how it works for me watching my stuff, because it is just one of those, this is my life, and this is how I'm able to make it work. So no, I unfortunately, I don't get to Noah. We know that I don't get as much to Stardom, DDT. I don't even watch like GCW, MLP, Impact, TNA. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, there's too much, really. But Brad mentions Mao and Taguchi switch roles for this show. We got big match Taguchi while also getting funny DDT Mao at the worst time.
Good observation.
Yeah, it's true. And then Colin says, what did I make of the Takeshita Yuka Sakazaki news? I'm not going to lie, I was shocked. Yeah, they're getting married.
That was cool.
Yeah, good for them.
I like the dog.
Yeah,
I'm a dog guy.
I like both of them. So now, you know, it's funny that like my priorities when you talk about wrestling is I'm a little bit burned out on American wrestling right now, and that style of watching a melodrama week to week television with backstage skits, and where the big stars don't wrestle, they do a promo, and you know, instead, and there's all this kind of wacky stuff, and we got to go to the back, and I'm just done with it. I for now, not permanently. This has happened to me before, where I just have to take a summer off sometimes from American wrestling. I think that goes all the way back to when I was like a teenager. I remember there was something I was just like, and then I was back into it.
When it starts to become a job, you lose the passion, and if you want the passion back, you got to walk away for a little bit.
Yeah, and both companies right now are in a bit of a lull where I'm just not enjoying the storyline. Sure. So I'm basically only watching Japanese stuff right now with a little bit of CMLL thrown in, like the Friday night shows. But I watch everything Stardom does. I watch everything New Japan does. Almost everything that Marigold does. And then I try to keep up with Senjo. And now Marvelous is on there. And now the Monday shows with Noah, there's still too much. And I just had the All Japan thing where I was watching the whole Champion Carnival tournament. But I'd rather watch cards. And you know that it occurs to me that all this stuff, like these American TV shows with, you know, let's go to the back, and now let's go to the ring for a few minutes, and we'll go through this commercial, and then we'll have a video package, and then we'll have this production number here where people are walking around some warehouse for no reason, giving their promo to the camera. Sometimes I'm into it, and then sometimes I just have to get out of it. And even as a kid, I would watch tapes of Madison Square Garden shows. Like I always enjoyed sitting back and watching a wrestling card, seeing the prelims, going through the mid card, building to the main events. I've always enjoyed that. And I think that's why when I burn out on American wrestling for a little while, and I always come back to it, I always end up coming back to it, and I will again. That's why Japan does it for me, because Japan goes card to card. Mm-hmm. There isn't some dramatic television show every week, a weekly 3 hour, with WWE. Christ, it's what 6, 9, 7, 8 hours a week if you watch all 3 shows. Like, holy crap, it's just so much. And those are just the primary shows. They have ancillary shows behind those. I like watching a card. There's something about seeing the young guys in the front of it working their way up, and then the mid card guys kind of building to something down the road and having their previews, and then a main event where there's a title match and something that has been building on other mid cards from previously. That it just does it for me. And right now, the Japanese style has always been probably my favorite, going back to when I started trading tapes in college. But even so, now I find it much more satisfying currently. And that's just where kind of my priority is. So I'm watching a hell of a lot of Japanese wrestling right now. So, and there's a lot of good stuff. So it's well,
so you and I are actually going to have to sit down and watch the first Kenny Omega Okada match relatively soon for a watch back project we're going to do for Fight Game Media with Gary Gonzalez, and kind of unpack that a little bit differently. But I'm with you. I am finding myself in a situation where it's like, it's really only the big shows that I am gravitating towards. I'm having a hard time finishing Dynamite on Wednesday night. Like, I'll get to the last segment and I'm like, I have to get ready for work in the morning. And in the past, I would watch it and go to bed. But there are like things that like they'll front load it, or there'll just be like so much going on in the middle of it that it's just like, I'm mentally exhausted and I can't like do this. Like last night, Harley Cameron and Anna Jay basically both had to get sent to the hospital based off of the match that they were in with Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, and Adam Cole almost like got his neck broken in a match with Kyle Fletcher. It was just, there was a lot to it, and you're like, I think I'm done for now, and I will get back to this. And like, sometimes I just want to watch a show. And so AEW Double or Nothing was a 6-hour show. And then like, oh my God, I've gotten everything that I wanted out of this buffet. And so like, I'm getting exactly what I want, but even when I get it, I'm overstuffed. And so I will watch AEW Dynamite, I will watch AEW Collision, and I will watch the pay-per-views. I will only watch WWE Raw right now, and I will watch the PLEs and occasionally like Saturday night main event, because they have taught me that the rest of it doesn't really matter. I can watch the clips of SmackDown on Friday night on YouTube and get everything taken away that I need to know.
Yeah, they've actually gone the opposite direction, where there's a lot of show but not a lot happening, whereas for a while
it's a 1 or 2 takeaway show for 3 hours.
Yeah, they've slowed it down a little too much. Brad mentions that he still watches AEW and loves it, but Stardom, Sendai Girls, and NJPW become bigger for me right now. It's always cyclical, isn't it? I mean, if something comes up that strikes a chord with you, you come back. It's
the big stuff is hitting in AEW. Like, the big stuff is working really, really well at the top. Like,
none of that Moxley stuff's working. I mean,
they're trying to bring together all the baby faces, so they're finally kind of getting into this orbit of like Omega and Ospreay and Swerve and Paige all like being on the same page, but they're working at it like piece by piece. Like, it's not one of those one day they decide to team up and they're all gonna do it. Like, there's something to that at the main event level,
I don't know.
I
don't know. Their top guys hemorrhaging viewers.
There's something about that I think is interesting, and I think that the Tony and Monet stuff also has lit. So the stuff going into All In, I think is probably going to be some of their strongest stuff of the year. But if it's not hitting for you, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm just out. It just doesn't. I watch it, I can't do it.
I had a conversation with somebody on the Discord today about like what's important and what's not important on, U.S. television. Like, is NXT important? No, but if it's important to you, that's fine. Yeah, like, it's okay if it's only important to you. It's important to many other people. But for 99.9% of the audience, it's not important.
Colin mentions Tony Khan feeding Jamie Hayter to Tekla sucks. He says, I'm no Tekla fan yet. It's interesting how they seem to have fallen out of love with Jamie Hayter on AEW, who was over as hell for a while, and then she got hurt. And since she came back, it's been a big kind of downgrade, big nothing from her. And it's too bad. She's talented. And for a while, she had a ton of momentum. And for whatever reason, they do seem to have just lost interest in her, don't they? Yeah.
She had a really good campaign in the Owen Hart Cup. I thought she was the best Jamie Hayter that she's been in a while. And I'm not ready to say that this is the end of Jamie Hayter because Thekla came in and dropped her on her first night. There are only a handful of babyface women in AEW right now that you actually have a legitimate way of building up a heel against. And I don't necessarily think that Thekla should get one over on Hayter to win the feud. But it says more to the confidence, like, hey, they have women coming in and they have to do something with these women at a top level. And it says more that they chose Hayter to do that because, Tony's off the book with Monet. You got Willow doing her stuff with Shafir and Chris Statlander. Anna Jay and Harley Cameron are probably going to be off TV for a little while and based off of the match that they had. So even if they wanted to pivot back after the fact, that's not really a thing. Who else is there? Hayter's the person, and I think Hayter's good enough to survive and thrive off of this.
We'll see how it goes over there. But yeah, anyway. Well, I mean, we didn't mean to go off on an AEW tangent right there, but I guess we did. And Maria just says women's wrestling needs Mercedes and Tony. We don't get big matches. We don't get matches this big too often. Not in AEW.
There's a lot of people wanting that to main event All In, and I don't have an opinion either way. If it main evented, I'd be fine. If it didn't main event, I would be fine. But I think there's a lot of people that would be happy if it did, and I'm happy for them if it does.
And USVA guy has a different take. He's working to help AEW last week and learned a lot of the things I've been talking about confirmed a lot of the things I've been talking about for years. They have no clue how to run a company. The things I saw behind the scenes were just sad. That's what I hear too. That it's just a clown.
Cheddar cheese jalapenos this morning that weren't as spicy.
It's a bit of a clown show down there. But well, hey. Nothing. We don't need to get into why AEW is the way it is, but there you go. Now we can go on with this tournament, though, because
speaking of El Desperado and Robbie Eagles,
as we bring it around, you see that that's professional broadcasting. We brought it right around.
Pivot.
Desperado, Robbie Eagles, because goodness, we do not have time to go on into that here on a New Japan show. We'll talk about it a lot of Forbidden Door, I bet, when we get to Forbidden Door time about that. God help us all. Desperado and Robbie Eagles. This is only the 7th singles match between these two that I could find, Jeremy, on WrestlingData.com anyway. Only 7. You would think they would run into each other a little more often than that. And certainly that's in singles. Keep in mind, they wrestle plenty of tags. Robbie and Despe, of course, they were working their submission holes. A lot of submissions, really, in the junior heavyweight tournament this year. Ron Miller special, numero dos. And they both kind of sold their legs, but kind of in the way that Seth Rollins doesn't really sell his legs. And what I mean by that is a lot of those things where you're screaming or you're holding your knee and, oh, my God, the agony, the pain. And then you hop up and do a move with that knee that exactly the way you always do it. And then you just grab the knee again afterwards. And you try to put that off as selling. It's not really selling, is it? If it doesn't actually affect anything you do in the ring, but that was always a Seth Rollins thing that cracked me up. Is like he would limp and stagger around and collapse on his knee and hold it in the corner, and then he would get up and just do like 3 suplexes, doing things, holding the guy up, and the jumping and landing on it, and then like 4 seconds later, oh, my knee, it doesn't seem to be bothering you too much. You just did 6 moves. That was what this match was like. They weren't really selling. They were grabbing their knee, but they weren't selling it. That was
gesticulating really wildly at random times. An affected area.
If you're going to work it this way, just never mind the selling thing and just do it. And you could have been done a lot quicker. It was 17 minutes, 44 seconds. Numero dos finally got it, but the crowd was into this. I mean, the action was good. I just thought the selling was just funny. I just thought it was funny. I don't understand why they were leaning so hard on the selling if they weren't going to actually have it affect the offense at all.
Tension, action.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, the action was good. It was a good match. Desperado won, so Desperado is still in it. So now Desperado has now eliminated Mao because he beat Mao. So, Mao has 12 points, but Desperado has a tiebreaker. Nothing can go wrong for Desperado unless Yo defeats Taiji Ishimori, and that was the final match of the night. And Brad mentioned there was a little kid dressed like Robbie Eagles in the crowd, which is pretty great. I popped for that too, and so did Robbie. Robbie seemed really flattered by that. It was pretty cool. Fernando Zaya says Desperado was his pick to win it all, so there you have it. A lot of people thought that
having the champion win and call a shot.
Yeah, I mean they haven't done it in so long. It's almost time to do it in some tournament anyway. Anyway, best of the Super Junior B block match to finish it off. Yo and Taiji Ishimori. Ishimori worked heel here, but not a severe heel. Did the thing with the turnbuckle behind the referee's back and then threw him into it later. He's a tweener. This is a really good match. They put Yo in a position where he could succeed by putting him in there with Ishimori. And Yo's a perfectly capable wrestler. I'm not saying that Yo needs to be carried, but he needed to have a good match here to win the block, and they gave him Ishimori to help him do it. 15 minutes and 50 seconds. This was a really good match. Again, submission versus submission. Anaconda Vice, bone lock. They both tried to get those submissions for a while, but then it built nicely, and Yo hit a really good-looking direct drive. That looked like a finisher. And Ishimori took it perfectly. Yo gave it to him perfectly, and it was a very realistic way to win it. Yo pins Taiji Ishimori, eliminates Desperado on the tiebreaker. So once again, the champion gets as many points as anybody else. No one got more points than the champion did in either block, but Yo has the tiebreaker. Yo moves on, and Yo will face Kosei Fujita. They had a little bit of a stare down, just a little brief one. After this one, they will meet at Oda Ward Gymnasium, June 1st. That's Sunday morning here in the United States, and Yo versus Kosei Fujita. So we'll have to get into who's going to win this
right
one.
now. We're going Stephen Conway. We're going to talk about who's winning this match.
Okay.
We have Kosei Fujita and Yo, and we have arguments for and against each one of them that we started with ahead of time, and we can kind of figure out exactly where they're going with this. So you talk to me about why you think Fujita is the guy to win this match.
Yeah, and again, it's close. You could make a good case either way. I think that for Fujita, the case for Fujita would be it's time to launch this kid. He is 22. He's getting over with the fans. I think they took the tag team titles off of the Robbie and him for a reason, to free them up for something like this. And Yo has the tag team titles. Yo also has a challengers for that set up. He has Wato. He just saved Wato from Kanemaru and Sho, so you could do a tag team title match there if he drops at Dominion, or near Dominion if he loses the final. My point for Fujita, they just did a 40-minute long documentary for him as a new star. He wins this one on a tiebreaker. He has a ton of momentum. It seems like the people are into him. There very few things in wrestling work better than a new young star. And he can be that for New Japan in that junior heavyweight division. And the idea that you can get 15 years, perhaps, if everything works out perfectly, out of this guy on top, it's pretty exciting. I'm leaning toward Fujita, but I also understand the point you're going to make. I'm still picking Fujita here because I also think that's the match they want. Desperado, Kosei Fujita. Hiromu Takahashi sort of endorsed him on the way by when Fujita won the block, kind of almost gave him a little pat, whispered something in his ear. Hiromu, the ace of the junior heavyweight division for many, many years. Now Fujita is going up against the current ace. Look at the guys he beat in this tournament to get there. Now, it just seems like they understand what they have, and it might be time to go with it. Just my thought on that, but go ahead and make your case for Yo, which is also compelling, and we'll get zip-locked in to hear all about it.
So, I'm going to start by saying, in my heart, I agree with you about everything that you said. I think that it is time for Fujita. I think that Fujita is the goods. I think that he's probably one of like a Rushmore for that division that you could go forward with Doki, Fujita, Desperado. If you want to make Hiromu, or if he's moving on to the heavyweight division, there's other people that can take that spot and rise into it.
Yeah, or at least compete for open weight titles. So like, Hiromu's
Right.
never gonna be a heavyweight.
Right.
He's just too small.
Now, it's typically unconventional for the winner of the block or the winner of the tournament to be in the same block as the champion, to beat the champion, and then to face the champion afterwards, and then go for it. Yo and Desperado actually have an interesting win-loss record. In the last, since 2021, there's a 3-1 record with those guys.
So they've only wrestled each other 4 times.
In singles matches since 2021. When it's a 3-1 record, who do you think is the 3-1?
Is Yo the 3?
Yes.
Wow, how about that?
Yeah, so Yo defeated Desperado in this year at the Super Juniors, like a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then Yo defeated Desperado in the Super Juniors in 2023. And then he defeated him in one more time before then. And then Desperado beat him for the title at Dominion 4 years ago.
Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. That doesn't seem like it was 4 years ago. That seems a lot longer ago. And I don't mean that as a knock on
it was a COVID empty arena thing. So we take it all. There is a story here of Desperado needing to defeat Yo to really cement himself as one of the greatest of all time, because he's gone through everyone else. I
understand what you're saying. Is anybody sitting there saying Desperado would be good, but he hasn't beaten Yo yet? I don't know if anybody's saying that.
Where if you're doing a campaign of saying like he has felled everybody, he's already beaten Fujita, he's already beaten Akira, he's already beaten Ishimori, all these years, running through the gauntlet of everyone, running through the gauntlet of all the top guys. Yo is a top guy. He's been a thing. He's run through show. Like, there are all of these guys that are left. And he's going out there and he's saying, hey, I want to make sure I have a match with you, Taguchi. Robbie Eagles, you and I, we're going to have this match one more time. One of these things. And he's had that match with Fujita. I am not saying that the Fujita match isn't the best match to have, but I think there's a part of me that thinks that this entire tournament and the entire scenario is just passing time and having a compelling scenario until Doki gets back.
Okay, fair enough. My thought on this is, if Fujita was going to, if you were going to do this, this is your thing, Yo and Fujita, and Yo was going to win and advance, then just leave the tag team titles on Fujita. I thought it's an interesting thing to take the tag team titles and put them on Yo and Wato, and then have Yo go ahead and win the tournament, just because it's a way to do both, right? It's you could leave the titles on Fujita and Eagles, and then you have that junior tag title match to have that either on the finals night or at Dominion. And then you could have the other guy going for it. As it is, you kind of take that out of the equation. Now, the junior heavyweight tag team titles aren't the most important thing in the world. I just think if you were going to have Fujita come up just a bit short, then leave the junior tag team titles on, because at least he would have that. That's just a thought, and it doesn't mean that either guy is absolutely going to win this match. But it seems strange to take the belt off of him and then have him fail in the finals again.
There is an overarching thing, and I don't know if it's deliberate, and I don't know if it's accidental, but the entirety of TMDK has spent a significant part of 2025 suffering devastating losses, like getting very, very close and then losing. Zack Sabre Jr. lost the IWGP title. These guys lost the tag titles. Zack Sabre did not win the title last month or earlier this month at Resurgence. The Kosei Fujita getting close and not winning. There's something to all of it that you could kind of draw a line and saying like, hey, these guys, this is why they're breaking bad or something like that. There is a thread there that TMDK has not had the best 2025.
Nope. Are you still there? Yep. Okay. There you go. You froze up for just a second.
That TMDK did not have the best 2025.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Fair enough. The thing is, Fujita can win this match and win Super Juniors and then fail at the title match.
Absolutely.
That could
but
be
that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think Desperado loses the title at Dominion, regardless of
I don't think so
whoever it is.
Yeah, I don't think
it's
so.
It's like, this is all just like getting very, very close. So if Yo won the best of Super Juniors and then didn't win at Dominion, it doesn't like, it's almost like you don't want Kosei Fujita to be in the position of challenging and losing. If it's going to be a guy challenging and losing, I'd rather have it be Yo.
Yeah, I think Fujita winning the tournament would do a lot for him.
Absolutely.
And move him up, because you can do this in stages, right? He can win his first Super Junior, but not win his first junior heavyweight singles title. You can do that later. You don't have to do all the firsts at once, I guess is what I'm saying.
You can also get to the finals, and then next year he wins.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just exactly where you want that next step to be. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm kind of thinking I'm not immediately ruling out Yo as the contender. So there we go, guys. That's our who's it going to be? And we'll break
keep in mind, Yo missed a ton of time because his shoulder went out. We don't know what their plans were for Yo before that happened. I mean, he was
thinking about that during the match. Like,
he just came back in 2025. They might have had big plans for him because he wasn't back yet at the Tokyo Dome. Like, seeing him, he was dressed up as one of the beer girls at the Tokyo Dome, and they did that little skit where he came back and
did he get hurt in the Super Juniors last year and he was out?
It wasn't in the Super Juniors. It was in that title match with Sho. They had built up that junior heavyweight title match with Sho, and he got hurt like a minute or two into it.
Because he was in the Super Juniors last year. Oh, no, he wasn't. Sorry. I thought he was, and I read something wrong. My bad.
Yeah. Fernando is pretty adamant about Desperado. I think he's going to keep the belt. I think it's going to stay.
Desperado is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and the fact that he is able to do what he does and has the mystique that he does and wrestles the way he does, he is special.
Did you watch the match from the Freedoms show that they put on NJPW World it's him and was it Violent Jack against Jun Kasai and somebody? I'm trying to.
No, do I need to?
Not if you only if you like deathmatch. But I
save that one for when they run it back on the singles match.
Out of morbid curiosity, Jun Kasai pinned Desperado on there, so they have to have a title match now eventually. That is a lot of light tubes. That was a lot of light tubes used in that match.
It was pretty sobering to look at Desperado's back through the entirety of this tournament.
Yeah. I mean, he and June are starting to look an awful lot alike. Brad's prediction: Fujita wins the tournament, loses the title match, and Doki returns to challenge Despe. I hope that's true. I don't know how long Doki's out. I would love it if he came back.
I'm not going to out the person, but somebody had mentioned that he's not planned to come back until after the G1.
Yeah, that surgery that he had to have right there is usually a bit of a longer time to come back than that. And we might, like I said, we're probably not going to see Henare in 2025. There's some people on the shelf for a good long time, unfortunately, with this. Yeah. Anyway, so that's coming up. Again, as of right now, we don't know the rest of the card for Sunday, but by the time you hear this, it may have been announced. As I'm looking at this, I believe it's almost 8:00 in the morning in Tokyo. So I think that will be coming out in the next few hours. So let us know the whole card. So
it's about 5:00 on a Saturday.
Yeah. So next week, of course, we're going to break that card down match by match. I think it's also the undercard is going to tell us a little bit about Dominion as well and lean toward it a little. So Dominion is coming. And of course, when time comes, we'll have a big preview for that card. And then we've got a busy summer coming up between the G1 Climax tournament, Forbidden Door, a few other events that are coming up. Some good, some bad. Like I said, I'm always looking forward to G1, and I'm always kind of wincing and bracing myself for Forbidden Door. But we'll see what comes of it.
We'll be here every week, some way, shape, or form. There might be a week or here too where one of us are not here, but we'll figure that out when we get here, guys. But promise you, every Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, one of us will be here for Speaking Strong Style, if not both of us, for the rest of the summer, because we love talking New Japan.
We do, and we're definitely glad we can spend it with you. So, Brad, thank you very much for joining us. Fernando, appreciate it. USVA guy, it's good to see you. Colin, of course, glad you were here. Maria, Fernando, just the whole crew, and anybody that's watching this or listening to this, either live or later, we're grateful that you spend your time with us. We know you have a lot of choices, and we're glad you picked us. Thank you. So we will be back next Thursday. We'll know who the Super Junior winner is and who's moving on. So can't wait to see it. That'll be Sunday at Oda Ward Gymnasium. In the meantime, for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Stephen Conway. This has been Speaking of Strong